Kelly Clarkson has spent more than 2 decades in the public eye, and 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most transitional years of her career. She's closing the book on the daytime talk show that defined the last 7 years of her life. She's running her own record label for the first time. She's headlining a Las Vegas residency at one of the most storied venues in the world. And she's doing all of it while raising 2 kids on her own following the death of their father. This is where things actually stand for Kelly Clarkson right now. Not rumor, not speculation, just what's been confirmed. Net worth figures for celebrities are always estimates, and Kelly Clarkson's are no exception. Different wealth trackers land in slightly different places. Celebrity net worth has pegged her fortune around $50 million for the past several years, while other outlets, including Parade, have more recently estimated it closer to $60 million. The truth is probably somewhere in that range, and honestly, the exact number matters less than how she built it, because Clarkson has never relied on one single income stream. Music was the original foundation. Her run of hits in the 2000s, Since You've Been Gone, Behind These Hazel Eyes, Stronger, turned her into one of the defining pop voices of her generation and set her up with decades of touring and royalty income. But television is really what transformed her finances. As a coach on The Voice, she reportedly earned somewhere in the neighborhood of $14 million per season, based on a per-episode rate that court filings from her divorce helped confirm. She coached multiple seasons of the show across different stretches of its run, stepping away at one point because, as she candidly told USA Today in 2023, she was privately struggling and needed to protect her own well-being rather than keep performing a version of herself for the cameras. Then there's The Kelly Clarkson Show, which launched in 2019 and quickly became one of the most watched programs in daytime television, racking up 24 daytime Emmy wins along the way. Divorce filings from a few years back put her monthly income from the show and The Voice combined at around $1.9 million, though that number is now years old and her overall earnings picture has shifted considerably since. In February 2026, Clarkson announced that the currently airing 7th season would be her last as host. The decision was entirely her own. In a statement posted to Instagram, she explained that stepping away from a daily production schedule would let her prioritize her children, and she made clear this wasn't a goodbye to performing altogether, just an exit from the grind of a 5-day-a-week show. Season 7 is airing through the fall of 2026, complete with a rotating lineup of guest hosts announced along the way, and NBC Universal has publicly thanked her for 7 consistently strong seasons. On top of the label and the show, Clarkson has built out a broader business portfolio. Brand partnerships, a best-selling series of children's books inspired by her daughter, and, as of 2025, something entirely new. That spring, she launched her own independent record label, High Road Records, marking her first release as an artist no longer signed to a major label after parting ways with Atlantic Records. Her debut single under the new label, Where Have You Been?, dropped on May 2nd, 2025. It's a genre-blending rock-pop R&B ballad, co-written with producer Jaco Carico, and according to Clarkson herself, the song is about finally recognizing real love when it shows up rather than letting it slip past you. She debuted it live during NBC's Today Show City Concert Series at Rockefeller Plaza and performed it again during the season finale of The Voice that same month. Going independent after more than 2 decades on major labels was a genuinely significant move. It means Clarkson now owns her masters and controls her own release schedule, something very few artists at her career stage actually do. If there's one project that captures where Clarkson is putting her energy right now, it's Las Vegas. Kelly Clarkson Studio Sessions is her 2nd residency at the Coliseum at Caesars Palace, the same stage that has hosted Celine Dion and Elton John, following her first residency, Chemistry, an intimate evening with Kelly Clarkson, which ran in 2023 and 2024. The show launched in July 2025 and pulls from her full catalog, mixing career-defining hits like Stronger and Since You've Been Gone with newer material like Where Have You Been?, alongside nightly cover performances with her band. The residency hasn't run entirely without disruption. In August 2025, Clarkson postponed a stretch of shows, explaining in a personal statement that her children's father had been ill and that she needed to be fully present for her kids during that time. She rarely discusses her private life publicly, which made the announcement notable in itself. Caesars later confirmed additional 2026 dates for the residency, running from mid-July through August 15th, partly to make up for the shows that had been postponed. Demand has clearly been strong enough to justify extending the run rather than winding it down. Clarkson's property history tracks pretty closely with the major chapters of her life. Where she's lived has shifted along with her marriage, her divorce, and her career moves. Early on, during her marriage to Brandon Blackstock, the couple owned a large estate in Hendersonville, Tennessee, along with an Encino, California property. As the marriage ended, Clarkson sold off pieces of that shared life. The Tennessee mansion sold in 2021, and the Encino home was listed and eventually sold as well, with Clarkson moving into a new home in Los Angeles' Toluca Lake area around 2020. The property that generated the most legal drama, by far, was the Montana ranch, known as Warren Peak Ranch, which Clarkson purchased in 2019 and which became a central point of contention during her divorce. Blackstock argued the ranch, having been acquired during the marriage, should be treated as joint marital property and split evenly. Clarkson's legal team countered that it was protected under the couple's prenuptial agreement, since she was the sole title holder and had paid for it herself. In October 2021, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge sided with Clarkson, ruling that the ranch and other Montana properties didn't qualify as marital property under the terms of the prenup. A few months later, in January 2022, the two sides reached a settlement in which Clarkson agreed to give Blackstock a small ownership stake, just over 5%, valued at roughly $908,800, while retaining full ownership of an adjoining property outright. Blackstock reportedly continued living at the ranch for a period after the ruling before eventually relocating, and the property has remained associated with Clarkson as something close to a home base ever since. Beyond the legal battles, what stands out about Clarkson's real estate history is how much of it has been tied to fresh starts. Nearly every major property change, leaving the Tennessee estate, exiting Encino, settling the Montana dispute, relocating for the talk show's production moves between Los Angeles and New York, lines up with a turning point in either her marriage, her divorce, or her career. It's less a story about accumulating trophy homes and more a record of a life in motion. Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock's relationship goes back to 2006, when they first met during rehearsals for the Academy of Country Music Awards. Nothing romantic happened between them at the time. Blackstock was working as a respected Nashville talent manager, the son of manager Narvel Blackstock and stepson of Reba McEntire. Years later, after reconnecting, their relationship became serious quickly. They married in October 2013, and the couple went on to have two children, daughter River Rose, born in June 2014, and son Remington Alexander, born in April 2016. In June 2020, Clarkson filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. What followed was a drawn-out legal process that stretched across roughly 2 years, touching on the Montana ranch dispute, financial disagreements, and questions about Blackstock's role as her manager before their split. The divorce was finalized in March 2022. Clarkson later poured a lot of that emotional weight into her 2023 album Chemistry, which explored the arc of heartbreak, anger, and eventual acceptance that came with the end of the marriage. Then, in August 2025, everything shifted again. Blackstock died at age 48 after privately battling melanoma for more than 3 years. According to a statement from his family's management company, he passed away peacefully, surrounded by family. A local Montana coroner later confirmed the cause of death as natural, resulting from melanoma, with seizures listed as a contributing factor on his death certificate. Clarkson had postponed the remaining dates of her Las Vegas residency just a day before his death was announced, writing that while she normally keeps her personal life private, she needed to be fully present for her children during that time. Despite years of legal conflict during the divorce, Blackstock remained the father of her 2 children, and Clarkson stepped back from public life for a period afterward to help River and Remy process the loss. When she eventually returned to her talk show, she opened with a cover performance rather than addressing the loss directly in words, a choice that resonated with a lot of long-time viewers who understood exactly what it meant. Before any of the fame, Kelly Clarkson was born on April 24, 1982, in Fort Worth, Texas, the youngest of 3 children. Her mother, Jean, worked as a first-grade teacher, and her father, Steve, was an engineer. The two divorced when Kelly was 6, and she was raised primarily by her mother in Burleson, Texas. She wasn't initially set on a music career. She was drawn to writing and had an interest in marine biology, until a middle school choir teacher heard her singing in a hallway and pushed her to join choir. After graduating high school in 2000, Clarkson turned down college scholarships and moved to Los Angeles to try to break into music. It didn't go smoothly. She dealt with a string of failed demo deals, lost her apartment in a fire, and eventually moved back to Texas, broke and discouraged. In 2002, she tried again, this time auditioning for the very first season of American Idol. She won. Her coronation single, A Moment Like This, debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Her 2004 album Breakaway, featuring Since You've Been Gone, Behind These Hazel Eyes, and Because of You, sold more than 12 million copies worldwide and earned 2 Grammy Awards, cementing her as a genuine recording artist rather than simply a reality television winner. As for her love life right now, Kelly Clarkson is single, and she's been consistently open about that. In an appearance on Today with Jenna and Friends in 2025, she told Jenna Bush Hager she wasn't actively looking for a relationship, but wasn't ruling one out either, mostly because her schedule as a working single mother left little room for dating. She's talked about this openly on more than one occasion. During a performance at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions golf event in January 2026, she introduced her song, My Life Would Suck Without You, with a self-deprecating joke about not currently being in that kind of relationship, which got a big laugh from the crowd. There has been persistent public speculation about her love life over the years. Rumors involving collaborators and friends have circulated repeatedly, including chatter tied to her 2020 Christmas duet partner Brett Eldridge. But both Clarkson and the people she's been linked to have consistently described those relationships as friendships or professional collaborations rather than romance. As of mid-2026, there's no verified report confirming she's in a relationship. Various tabloid and social media posts claiming she's secretly engaged or announced a new relationship at events like the Oscars are not backed by any credible reporting, and appear to be exactly the kind of unverified clickbait that tends to circulate around any famous single woman's name, worth flagging clearly, because they're not accurate. What is well documented is how she talks about balancing motherhood with any future relationship. She said publicly that her kids have made it clear they'd rather she not date anyone new, and that she's responded by telling them she loves them deeply, but also needs love and connection in her own life. It's a small moment, but it captures something real about where she is. Raising 2 children largely on her own, having survived one of the more public divorces in recent entertainment history, and now navigating grief after her ex-husband's death, all while continuing to be remarkably candid about it in public, rather than hiding behind a polished celebrity front. Put all of it together and 2026 looks less like a comeback and more like a full reset on Kelly Clarkson's own terms. She's ending her talk show by choice rather than cancellation. She's running her own label instead of answering to one. She's headlining one of the most prestigious stages in Las Vegas. And she's doing all of this while raising 2 kids through a loss most people never have to think about at this stage of their lives. Whatever comes next for her, new music, a return to television in some other form, more Vegas dates. The through line hasn't changed since she stepped onto that American Idol stage back in 2002. An artist who tends to process her life in public on her own